Remember that old rhyme, first comes love, then comes marriage? Well, when Mike and I got engaged, there was an ironclad intermediate step, the wedding registry. Today's brides and grooms can register for almost anything. Business Insider reported that one couple even registered for a month's worth of Doritos, which is only slightly less strange than the fact that someone actually bought them for them. Then, though, it was Torah from Sinai that the registry must have one core item. Can you guess what it was? A set of china. The process of registering for that china was a kind of Rorschach test for newlyweds. Would you go modern or traditional? Flowers or patterns, bone or porcelain, gold or silver, or perhaps less ornate? So serious was the process that there were urban legends of couples melting down in the houseware section of department stores. Older couples shared in hushed tones shopping advice that sounded more like marital counsel. Be careful, be thoughtful, make sure you agree. You'll be living with this choice forever. We used our set once. When we moved from LA, we picked up our china into boxes and we packed them away. And they have moved from basement to basement for 24 years. Do any of you have china in your basement? A little before Passover this year, our beloved member, Marcia Cole, passed away. Marcia's passion, her life work was antiques. Her grandchildren shared with the kind of heartwarming, beaming smiles that only the deepest of love engenders, that one of their fondest memories was that she served everything on china. By everything, they meant everything. A snack of potato chips for children and grandchildren from toddler to teen would be stunningly laid out on the finest of china. I was so taken with this, so taken with Marcia's embodiment of Irma Bombeck's famous wisdom never to save the good things for later. As Bombeck wrote, I would, if I had done it again, burnt the pink candle that was sculpted like a rose before it melted while being stored. When my child kissed me impetuously, I never would have said later, now go get washed up for dinner. The china is about so much more than the china. And so I was inspired and I was troubled. You see, I know this wisdom. I try to live this wisdom. Why had my own china stayed in the basement for so long? Why do so many of us have china in our basement? China we selected with deep thought or inherited with loving memory, but never actually use. For me, it boiled down to two things. First, practicality. While Mike and I passed the test of our engagement registry with flying colors, we did agree. And we did pick dishes we both could love for a lifetime. We failed to check whether they were dishwasher safe. Spoiler alert, they were not. That's a whole lot of hand washing in a dishwasher paste world. And yet, anything worthwhile takes work. And so as I reflected, I understood that there was a deeper explanation as well. Preciousness. I'll never forget that morning after our first beautiful Shabbat meal when I opened up the dishwasher and stood face to face with no longer quite as gold-plated dishes. Wanting to protect the rest of the precious settings, I placed them up on a high shelf. I kept meaning to pull them down, but I worried, what if someone, and I won't name names here, ran them through the dishwasher again? As our family grew, so grew my concern. In a million years, it never would have occurred to me to be as brave as Marcia and trust my china to toddlers who couldn't even keep a plastic spoon on their plate without Velcro. What if they fell? What if they chipped? They were precious and pricey and perfect. We don't want to mess with perfect. We want to protect perfect. If we use the china, then the china will get chipped, so we decide it's better not to use it. And even if china is not your issue, most of us have some version of this, big or small. I was speaking to Wes earlier this week, and he shared with me that a little over a year ago, he saw people wearing all white tennis shoes. He loved the look, and he asked Shira to get him a set of all white tennis shoes. And then he didn't wear his all white tennis shoes. Why? Because if you wear all white tennis shoes, they're not going to be all white anymore. And so what to do with that sense? What to do with that reticence to use them, to damage them, to perhaps sully them? Well, he's in Israel now, and he shared with me that he finally found the perfect place for those all-white shoes. Yom Ha'atzmaut, where he wore them together with his white and blue. So I asked him, how did it feel to finally wear your all-white shoes? Great, he said. I don't know why I waited so long. So many of us wait so long. Marcia Cole used her china, not just on her table, but in daily attendance to the preciousness of her relationships with her family, her friends, even customers who wandered into her antique shop. They felt seen and valued by her because she didn't hesitate to strike up a conversation, to call, to connect, to bring out that part of her that helped them feel seen. What was particularly instructive, though, is that she embraced this preciousness because she deeply understood precariousness. For the last 20 years of her life, Marcia grappled with daily, serious, ongoing health battles. Marcia knew that tennis shoes never stay white, that plates don't stay unchipped. And the meaning of all our lives is to make peace with that truth. Because she got that. It gave her the freedom to risk the chips, to use the plates. After all, nothing stays pristine. Pristine things get relegated to basements or to high shelves. Pristine things get pushed behind the ropes of a museum. Do not touch. That's a way to spend an hour. It's not a way to live a life. Look at any phase or stage. What childhood is pristine? We fall off bikes. We get up to bat and sometimes strike out. Our hearts get broken and heal and hurt again. What marriage is pristine? You don't get love without working on it. The way you get to holding hands on a park bench, old and gray, is through accepting not just the risk, but the certainty of chips. That is the wisdom that our tradition gives us of breaking a glass under the chuppah. If you want to go from chuppah to a lifetime of love, there's a lot of broken glass. So too with work. If we have any hopes of a career that makes an impact, we can't be afraid to take the risk of taking out what is precious, our resources, our passion, our dreams. There's an old saying that if you achieve all your dreams, you've dreamed too small. So too, Israel. This week, we celebrated Israel at 75 in a fraught time. The people of Israel and Jews around the world stand face to face with the glaring imperfection of challenges unresolved from its foundation until today. There is so much work to do. But here in this sanctuary, on Tuesday night, we danced. And in Israel, 58 of our Temple Emmanuel members celebrated on the streets of Jerusalem with appreciation more deeply felt for how precious and precarious and imperfect it is. We don't live in a museum. Our marriage, our work, our beloved homeland, all beautiful, all not pristine, all require us not just to accept, but to embrace the risk of imperfection in order to elevate what is into what can be. So it was that right before Pesach, I schlepped to the farthest, dustiest reaches of our basement, behind the kids' camp bins, behind the Pesach pots, even behind the keepsakes from childhood, to find our china to use for the Seder. We had 12 people coming. And as the boxes came up into my kitchen, I opened the boxes to find 9 place settings. So much to my son's chagrin, as he was conscripted to help lug the boxes back down into the basement, we brought them right back until Shabbat arrived. And I looked around at our family table, at the 6 of us gathered there, and it clicked. Marcia was right. The things that are precious should be used, not once every 24 years, not even only once a year on Pesach, but regularly to remind us it is a blessing to take the risk of imperfection. Real shoes get dirty. Real china gets chipped. That doesn't mean you hide it away. Take out the china. Serve up the chips. Life is too short and too precious to wait. Shabbat shalom.